Well, the day has finally arrived, the 2025 edition of the Cruise Summit here at the News UK HQ. The stage is set for what's going to be a really exciting, informative, engaging day. Will, anything you're particularly looking forward to?
For me, it's got to be the return of the Battle of the Media. I mean, last year was so fun, engaging, completely different, and this year it's looking like it's going to be really, really insightful for our delegates.
I think for me, what I'm really most excited to hear is hearing from Russell at Meta to talk a bit about how sort of wider consumer trends are influencing how cruise lines should be marketing toward the new to cruise segment. A lot of today is going to be about the yet to cruise market, how we're going to get more and more of them on ships, and we're going to have cruise experts with literally decades and decades of experience up on that stage today. So I'm really excited to hear from them. But what's also really exciting is Rashmi, our new staff writer. The team, this is your first cruise summit. Talk to us, what are you kind of looking forward to?
Thank you, Jack and Will. I think I saw a bit on luxury cruising, expedition and river. And for me, coming in brand new, it's very interesting to see what are these differences and how agents can sell that. And a lot of great names on the list as well. And as you also said, there's a whole thing on Meta, TikTok. I'm also very keen to see whether it's TV, whether it's social media, what's the best way to market. So lots of learning, but lots of excitement too.
Yeah, well, there's going to be lots of learning throughout the day. So stay tuned, listeners or viewers. As the day unfolds, we're going to be talking to more delegates and some speakers, getting their take on their sessions and the data that they're revealing, and also getting live reaction from our delegates to see what really interesting tidbits of information resonate with them most. So stay tuned.
So Sam, we're here at the Cruise Summit 2025. We've both already presented this morning. I chatted about the trade a little bit. You spoke from the consumer angle. What can you tell us about that? Some of those key findings that you shared with the delegates here today.
Yeah, so for us, it was all about how to move consumers from shore to ship, looking at kind of their passion points and key driving decisions, which will make them take that leap. And what we're really finding for those that haven't cruised yet or are cruise curious, it's all about the right offer at the right time. We've also seen a real trend in luxury travel and the increase in that space. But what we've had to kind of slice out is the fact that one man loves luxury and the finer things in life, but the other real high spending member of the audience is all about experiential travel. So we've really found there's not a one size fits all for the UK consumer.
Yeah, and that differentiation when it comes to marketing as well is super key. We heard from a couple of guys from marketing companies, Accord, and we heard 424 about identifying those correct customers. So that's something that you guys are working on quite tightly at the moment with Travel Zoo, is who to go after, who with what cruise?
Yeah, definitely. And I think for us at Travel Zoo, it's all about kind of making the UK consumer think of something different. We're all about inspiring them and moving people over from land-based holidays to cruise, because it offers something for everyone. We did something very recently with a 6-star cruise company where we focused all on about the immersive experiences. And I know that's very much a real trend today. It's about people seeking authentic experiences on land that they wouldn't get anywhere else.
Yeah, and that's what the best thing about cruises is this opportunity to see so many different places and immerse yourself in so many different cultures. And we've heard from a few other speakers today. Is there anything that's particularly surprised you or something that you're going to take back to the office with you?
Yeah, what I've really liked from today is that we're constantly always talking about aging down the cruiser. And I know Jeff and Jazz from Accord really mentioned there's a huge amount of people that fit in that 60 plus bracket, and they're the ones with time, taste and money. And so we shouldn't always be disregarding them in the seek for new to cruisers. There's plenty of people in that space that are still yet to cruise.
Yeah, absolutely. Sam, thank you so much for joining us today. Really enjoyed you being here, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you. Thanks for the time.
Cheers. So Vicky, we're here at the Cruise Summit 2025. We've already heard tons and tons of great insight. What has impressed you so far, or something you're going to take back to the office with you?
I think for me, the fact that how obsessed we are with age, I think that's really hit home when we just did the consumer debate, where some of those consumers were talking about age, and actually some of the panels as well, how we're obsessive with how old, when actually we're only as old as we feel. And I think we really do home in on that. And also the type of consumers that we're going after, I think, not necessarily on the river side of things, but definitely if you listen to, I think it was Holly who was just talking then, from an ocean cruise perspective, I think you would take note of that. I think, actually, are we going after the right demographic?
Absolutely.
I also thought Force 24, hopefully I've said that right, you can hear me later. I thought it was very, very interesting about email versus DM. We always have an internal debate about how much DM we should do versus email. And the older ones, should I say, my boss, he'll kill me for saying it, but he's always like DM. And actually, it's right.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
and seeing that balance and something different works for different people, which I find really interesting as well.
Definitely. And it's nice to get away from the office and things and actually just have that headspace to listen and get other people's perceptions on what people think.
Absolutely. And one of the key findings we found from the data that we put out there was the popularity of solo travellers. Now, talking to the right people at the moment when it comes to solo. Just last week announced plans to launch first ever solo dedicated cruise ship, which is really exciting.
It's very, very, not just really exciting, it's like super exciting. I hate that word. But yeah, it is really exciting. And I think somebody said earlier on, what about people that constantly saying, you're the first at this, you're the first at that. Yeah, I get that when you're talking about slides and whirlpools, but not when it's an actual ship. This is an industry first, not just a river first, a cruise first, a world's first. And for us, solo travel has been, look, we've seen phenomenal growth, 66% growth year on year with Solo Traveller. And when we've actually ran the dedicated solo sailings, we've asked those customers, what do you think of solo? What do you want from your solo travel? And 64% had said they want those dedicated sailings. So for us to put on a solo ship, that was a really pivotal point. I'm expecting it to sell very well. It's going to sail from June to November. Here I go, my sales pitch. June to November 2027, dedicated. It's doing 4 itineraries, Danube, Rhine. Yeah.
The headline as well.
Exciting
I think
stuff.
I can speak on behalf of everyone in the industry. We can't wait to see what happens. Hopefully I get on board at some point, just to give it a go.
We'll see what this looks like on the
fair enough. Yeah, and then I'll get the invite. But thanks so much, Vicky, for joining us today. Hope you have a great rest
Thanks,
of the day.
lovely.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Mark, first of all, thank you. That was a fantastic session. I've learned a lot about expedition cruising. What I wanted to ask you was, what, in your experience, what have agents often gotten wrong about expedition cruising while selling it? Because clearly now they're informed, but in your experience, what have they missed in the past?
I think sometimes they put the wrong people on the wrong, on the wrong ships, because expedition isn't for everyone. Cruise isn't for everyone, right? So it's just having an understanding that there is no dress code on the ships. There's no West End shows. It's very much about the destination. It's very much about the experience rather than being entertained at that level. So sometimes not very often, because more than likely, once people understand it within 24, 48 hours, they're blown away by what we offer. It's just that initial shock. This isn't kind of what I have done before or what I have expecting. So there's just that lack of information. And I guess it's not the agent's fault. It's their confidence in being able to say it's the right person. And it's always nice to just give people an understanding of what life's going to be like on board the ships.
Brilliant, thank you. And what's been your favorite session today with what you've seen so far? Have you learned something? Has something blown you away?
I mean, of my age, TikTok, you just see those numbers, and I'm not engaged on that, surprisingly, not surprisingly at all, but just that level of engagement is something that I think as a brand we could do a lot more about. And that, because where we go, that is incredibly visual, and the picture tells 1,000 stories. So all of a sudden to have that that Instagrammable or TikTok moment is very powerful. And I think as a sector, Expedition Cruise should use that a lot more, because clearly TikTokers are all ages and we're underestimating that.
Thank you so much. That was beautiful. Nice and easy. Thank you.
So Sam, we're here at Cruise Summit 2025. We've had a full day of insightful talks. What's been your highlight?
I think for me, it was very interesting to see we had those 3 consumers come in today and see the difference from someone who has cruised through to thinking about cruise, especially, the younger generation as well, and having that insight into what their mindset is for our industry versus what we think we're doing, and actually seeing the reality and hearing the reality coming back.
Well, it is always important to hear that from consumers, because you rightly say we love the industry. We're always going to say good things about the industry. So it's nice to hear from someone coming from outside of the industry, which is really important.
Exactly. Yeah. And just understanding we might not be reaching them in the way we think we are, and having to adjust our marketing and our reach.
And you sort of highlight a few points there, but events like these, when we have a a full range of insightful speakers, help people with cruise. How important is that, especially for companies like your own?
I think it's huge, right? For us, we're bringing our established business from Scandinavia over to the UK. So it's about deepening our understanding of our industry and what our suppliers can offer us, and where we sit and what we can do to change and reach the people we need to reach. Speaking with the Meta and the TikTok guys today, and just understanding what they can do to help us in a different way that we're not thinking of already.
Yeah, that's it. And there's those different schools of thinking almost, that obviously you've got your own professional background and you're going to use the learnings you've had, but hearing it from someone with a whole different swathe of experience can really help change who you target and how you target.
Yeah. Certainly. Yeah, it's super useful. And if we didn't have these, we'd all be carrying on as if everything was perfect, and it might not be. And
exactly.
Yeah.
And it's all about growing and expanding what we do. And that's exactly what we hope today's going to do, because we can see the cruise industry is going so far forward. How have things been so far this year? Looking good?
Yeah. As you just said, we're bringing a Danish business established to the UK, and we're still only 18 months in. And it's for us, obviously, as a startup, everything is kind of growing and growing, and which is great. Maybe not as quick as I would hope, but glutton to punishment, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's about making sure we're doing the right thing, and staying up with trends and keeping up with everything's changing, right? The world of cruising is moving on, and we need to make sure we keep up.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, best of luck with that. Can't wait to see where it all goes. Thank you so much for joining us today, Sam, and we'll see you later.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, Jeff, we're here at the 2025 Cruise Summit. We've both already presented this morning. There's been tons and tons of good insights. Talk us through a little bit about what you shared with the audience, and what people who unfortunately can't be with us today should take away from what you shared.
Yeah, so today was me just sort of chucking a little bit into the mix there. And I suppose the point that I was making today was that our industry is amazing, and our industry is growing, and it's growing focused a lot on bringing age groups down and bigger ships with greater appeal. And it's an amazing thing. What we're doing is absolutely amazing. What I was doing today was just sort of flying the flag back for the more mature traveler, the more mature cruiser. But actually also then asking the question, well, what does that mean? I mean, what are the needs? Yeah. How do those needs change? What does a 65-year-old want today? Mm-hmm. What would a 65-year-old possibly want in 10, 15, 20 years' time?
Yeah.
And what do we need to do as an industry to make sure that we carry on embracing that, really?
Absolutely. And I think it was Aaron from Royal who made a really interesting point. With even brands like Royal, which is very family orientated, you still need to focus on those older travellers, because when it comes to the multi-gen market, they are at the top. They're the decision makers. Yeah. So you can't just completely disregard.
No, of course, and quite, obviously I was always going to fly a little bit of the flag for Fred Olsen Cruise Lines, and of course, but Aaron was absolutely bang on. As actually these more mature cruisers and whatever bracket we put them in, and it all can be a little bit subjective, are actually sailing on a lot of different cruise types as it stands at the moment, and it's not a demographic or a generation that we should really be overlooking, because they're always going to keep on being there.
Absolutely. It's such a huge part of the industry. And as you say, those who aren't in that demographic now, in 10 years' time, it'll be a different generation.
Absolutely.
That bracket, and they're always going to love cruising. Now, obviously, cruise and the future of cruise is the key part of today's summit. Is there anything else you've heard this morning that has particularly surprised you, or something you'll be taking back to the office?
Yeah, I mean, I think some of the data that came out, the surveys was great, and it's always good. We pull data, we hear other people's data. It's fantastic that what Cruise Trade News and Real Response have gone on to do with that data survey, and definitely snippets that I'll be able to take back from that. But also fantastic to actually have that panel discussion with cruisers and potential cruisers, to be able to hear why they did it, what they liked about it, what would have put them off, what has put them off. It's really quite eye-opening to be able to sit down and hear firsthand, I suppose, from guests and
people
what,
who are experiencing
from people
it,
are doing,
or why they might not. Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about. Jeff, thanks so much for joining us. Hope you have a great rest of the day, and we'll chat later.
Brilliant.
Thanks very much.
Thanks.
So, Luke, we're here at the 2025 Cruise Summit. We've heard tons of great insight already today. What's been some of your highlights?
Well, surprisingly, given like the last 20 years, I've been sort of talking about the strength of new to cruise and lowering that cruise audience. And I think there is definitely a place for that. But Jeff gave a really great presentation about actually that core demographic of cruising and not neglecting that in our marketing and everything else. And I think there's still a large part of cruise that is designed around people that are time rich, disposable income, all of those types of things. And that was a really eye-opening kind of session to actually take a step back and think, you know what, these fundamental cruisers are still so vital to all of us. And so actually that's something I'll probably take away a little bit more in some of the ways that we market and the ways that we talk to our agent partners as well.
Brilliant. And I think Aaron from Royal made a really good point. And even with a brand like Royal that is very family orientated, those decision makers when it comes to multi-gen are the traditional cruisers, grandparents to parents.
Right.
So identifying that in your market and in your database must be really key as well.
I think so. And I think there's that whole multi-gen piece. I think we've kind of neglected a generation within that. But generally you think grandchildren, parents, grandparents. But actually we listened to one of the people earlier saying about their 90-year-old like mother coming on. And actually I think there's a huge point of like great-grandparents, grandparents, parents and grandchildren. And I think that, it's picking the right parts of the cruise market for the right people. But that crossover, now I'm in this luxury sector, I can see that there is a huge crossover between mainstream and luxury because you've got traditional luxury customers. They're not taking their kids and their grandkids on a luxury or an ultra luxury product. They're going on a more mainstream product so that the whole family has got something to entertain them. So it's really gearing agents and people to make sure they're not discounting anyone. And I think just very quickly on one of the demographics and one of the things we always say to agents is be mindful of change of circumstance, right? Like it's, there's inheritance, there's maturing investments, there's pensions, there's all of these downsizing and freeing up equity in the home that will lead to, luxury experiences in like on a one-off or special occasions and stuff. So there's a massive opportunity for these yet to cruisers to get them involved in one part of the cruise industry.
Absolutely. Well, it's going to be really exciting. Thank you so much for joining us here, Luke, and I hope you have a good afternoon.
Yeah, it's been great. Thank you.
Well, we've just come to the end of the 2025 Cruise Summit. I don't know where the time went. We learned loads. We had some really, really, really great highlights today. Will, what's something that jumped out for you?
I think for me, it was Jeff Ridgen's piece about who to target. And we sometimes get so caught up in targeting the new to cruisers who might be younger cruisers, and which is obviously really important for the future of travel. But his point was to not forget about those core demographic of our cruisers who, at the end of the day, are the decision makers when it comes to multi-gen bookings. So I think that was really interesting. And a lot of people we spoke to today resonate with that point as well.
And Rashmi, we heard had some really great talks from some great speakers from kind of like beyond the cruise industry, people we don't tend to hear too much from. Anything they said that really resonated with you?
Oh, I'd say Anthea Turner was a great one to close the session, actually, because she talked about, and just adding to what Will was saying, on how don't box everybody in the same age group because she wants to climb Kilimanjaro. And that, for me, as a writer, is really inspiring, even for a story idea. And I could see a lot of agents nodding and understanding that they shouldn't just pigeonhole people according to demographics. So she was actually a huge inspiration on how even TV hosts can be very inspirational in the cruise scene.
Yeah, and I think for me, I would sort of I'll close off by kind of reiterating what I said in the closing remarks there, that this was a record attendance for us this year. We had speakers from, I said before, Meta, we had TikTok, we had speakers from ITV Studios, and I think the fact that they're here speaking at a cruise conference kind of is emblematic of the excitement that's swirling around the cruise industry right now and the direction of travel the sector is heading in. And so it was great for them to partner with us for this event. It was great for our agent and our cruise line delegates to hear from them. And, sky's the limit for cruise. And we can't wait to welcome even more people back for the 2026 edition. And long may the success of this industry continue.